What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm doing the SEC All-Star team of this past decade from 2010 to 2019. So as you know, the SEC has the best of the best in college football when it comes to teams and players. So I think like a week ago or something, I did the Pac-12 All-Star team, so you can go check that if you want. And so let's start with this video. So as the starting quarterback, so we're gonna start with a quarterback. As our starting quarterback, I have AJ McCarron. Now this might be one of the most controversial picks I'll ever make, considering who the backup quarterback is. But I'll explain this. AJ McCarron has been one of the best quarterbacks Alabama has had this past couple of years, and to be fair, he was one game. Let's say, for example, if kick six doesn't happen, then he has 3 consecutive national championships with Alabama, and he was one of the factors of their offense, even though their defense did better than their offense in, let's say, for example, 2012. He was a huge factor in what Alabama's offense was in those years, and he won in 2011 the national championship, and in 2012. He was actually part of the 2009 championship. I don't know if you knew this, but he redshirted that year, so he wasn't playing, but he was on the team in that specific year. So so that was 3 national championships of the 5 years he was on the team, and like I said again, it could have been a 3rd straight if kick 6 doesn't happen, and he had some amazing throws, like this one I'm about to show you. Currently, AJ McCarron is the backup to Deshaun Watson at the Houston Texans. And moving on to the backup quarterback, I have Joe Burrow from LSU. Again, this is the reason why my pick was one of the most controversial I could have ever done. But let's compare both of them. Although Burrow may have better stats, AJ McCarron, I could say, was more well-rounded since, let's say, Joe Burrow was a 6th rounder at best if the 2019 season never existed. Let's say, at the end of the 2018 season, he was a 6th rounder at best. However, he just had, one of the best years of college football ever in history. And, he led LSU to the national championship and is arguably the best quarterback LSU has had in recent memory, beating the likes of recently surpassing Zach Mettenberger, among others, as the best quarterback of all time for LSU. And Joe Burrow was just amazing this last season. And I'll show you some highlights right now. Currently, Joe Burrow is at the Cincinnati Bengals, and to be honest, I can't wait to see how he develops into them for this season. He has been playing great despite not having a win under his belt, and to be honest, I can't wait to see more of him. Moving on to the 3rd string quarterback, I have Nick Marshall from Auburn. It came down to either Nick Marshall or Johnny Football for the 3rd string quarterback. However, I'll say this: if Texas A&M doesn't beat Alabama, I don't think Johnny Football gets the Heisman, to be honest. I think that either goes to McCarron or maybe a player from, I guess, Notre Dame or Ohio State, since that win catapulted, Texas A&M to what no one thought they could be, literally. So, for Nick Marshall, let's talk about Nick Marshall. He was originally a defensive back at the University of Georgia. Then he became a quarterback for the Auburn Tigers and eventually led the Tigers to a national championship appearance in 2013. And as an added bonus, had an amazing play versus his former team, which I'll show you right now. Since then, although his play drooped after 2013, he was pretty good in 2014. And although he switched back to the defensive back, he was pretty good at his time during Auburn, and he is currently a defensive back in the Canadian Football League's Saskatchewan Roughriders. Moving on to the running backs, I have Derrick Henry as the first starting running back. This was one of the most obvious choices I could make. It was going to be incredibly difficult to make a reasonable argument of not having Derrick Henry as your starter. And while his time at Alabama, he was, maybe the best, maybe one of the best, if not the best, running back during his time. In his Heisman year, he had more than 1,000 rushing yards, which led to him winning the Heisman over Christian McCaffrey. However, in Alabama's share the carry system, that was his one and only Heisman year, or the one and only 1,000 rushing yards. However, he still did great, and he is currently at the Tennessee Titans and is continuing to proving his greatness as a running back. Moving on to the second starting running back, I have Todd Gurley, who is an amazing player. However, he is constantly riddled by injuries. However, he still has good stats anyway. He was at Georgia from, I think, 2011 to 2013, and he led Georgia. He was part of the Georgia team that played in the 2011 and 2012 championship games, and he was pretty good despite losing both games for the SEC championship, especially 2012, which came out in heartbreaking fashion. He was one of the best running backs that Georgia has ever seen since Herschel Walker, and today he is on the Atlanta Falcons, and he also led the Los Angeles Rams to a Super Bowl appearance back in 2018. Moving on to the flex option running back, I got Leonard Fournette, who was, amazing. He was, the prodigy of LSU football, and, he had Heisman-like years in 2014 and 2015, and could have won the Heisman in 2016 had he not gotten injured, but his career at LSU was something else. That was something completely different from what we thought we would expect, and he was just amazing. Today he's been tossed around a lot of NFL teams, but I think if you can find a place somewhere, he can return to the level he had in college. Moving on to the first backup running back, I got Trayvion Williams, who played at Texas A&M from 2016 to 2018 and is currently a running back at the Cincinnati Bengals. And his 2016 and 2018 years were truly amazing. His stats declined a bit in 2017. However, he was still very, very productive for the A&M Aggies and was part of their team led by Jimbo Fisher as head coach, he was amazing. He lived up to whatever expectations he had and maybe even surpassed them. And currently I think he's doing well at the Bengals in my opinion, and I can't wait to see what happens next, to be honest. Moving on to the second backup running back, I've got Trey Mason, who in 2013 and 2014, I think. He had amazing seasons, a one-of-a-kind type of seasons. He, along with Nick Marshall and others, led Auburn to the national title game in 2013. And he could have won the Heisman. They eventually gave it to Jameis Winston. However, he had an equally strong case for him to give him the Heisman Trophy award that year. And he had, I think, 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns in that same national championship, in which the Tigers lost to the Florida State Seminoles. And he did pretty good those 2 years. And since then, he's a free agent who was drafted a couple of years ago by the Los Angeles Rams. Moving on to the wide receiver, I've got Julio Jones. Now, this was an incredibly easy choice to make. Actually, Alabama is one of the best teams at the wide receiver position, and this proves it. Julio Jones had amazing years at Alabama from 2011 to 2013, and he was part of those national championships that Alabama won in 2011 and 2012. And he had amazing. He was amazing. He was just amazing, and that was more than enough for the Atlanta Falcons to pick him up. And he's been amazing since then. He's been amazing since his time at Alabama, and he continues to be in the Atlanta Falcons. Next up, we got Amari Cooper, another guy who was part of those national championships that Alabama had in 2011, 2012, and he almost won in 2013. And he had that amazing catch that I showed earlier, a 99-yard touchdown pass from A.J. McCarron to Amari Cooper, and he's just once-in-a-generation type of wide receiver. He had amazing stats. He was first All-American SEC at least once, same with Julio Jones. And since then, he's been on the Dallas Cowboys, continuing to play at an exceptional level. Moving on to the flex option wide receiver, I've got A.J. Brown, who is currently on the Tennessee Titans. He was one of the best wide receivers in 2017 and 2018, maybe only surpassed by maybe 1 or 2 guys in that list. And, he was, one of the bright spots that Ole Miss has had in this last decade. And that is no exception considering, he got drafted in the 2019 NFL Draft. In 2017 and 2018, he had more than 1,000 yards both years, and he had a couple of great amount of touchdowns, which was more than enough for the Tennessee Titans to pick him up, and he is a starter in there to this day. Next, I've got for the backup wide receiver, Jordan Matthews, which is a bit ironic considering he came from Vanderbilt, but I'll tell you this. He played from 2010 to 2012, which was the peak of Vanderbilt and therefore his peak as well. And he achieved around an average of maybe 800 yards per season, including 1,000-yard season. And he was picked up in the 2013 NFL Draft. And he is currently a free agent as of today. Moving on to the backup wide receiver, I've got Odell Beckham Jr. from LSU, who played in the from 2011 to I think 2013 or 14, and he was just amazing. He had many catches, and I think he had all of his 3 years at LSU. I think he had at least 500 yards catching the ball, and I think he would have had almost double of those stats had he played with the 2019 LSU. And he was, one of those key players in the LSU offense come the 2011 season and so on. And I think, he could have I think his stats would have been much better had he played in the 2019 LSU team. Sure, maybe Yamar Chase can cover that position just as well. However, I think Odell Beckham Jr. would have done, I think, better considering that he had done what he did at LSU, considering the type of offense they had, and considering that Les Miles is a defensive type of coach. And yeah. So, moving on to the starting tight end, I have Mike Evans, who is currently at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think. And he was, one of those key players at A&M who led A&M to an 11-2 record and a tie for the 5th seed in the 5th rank in the 2012 college football season. And he was part of the team that beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and he was pretty good, and that was enough for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to select him in the first round, and he has been playing at an exceptional level since then. Then you have, for the backup tight end, I've got Jordan Reed, who was, pretty good. However, he constantly was riddled by injuries. He was part of the 2012 Gator team that was pretty good. However, they weren't able to win the SEC East due to tiebreakers with Georgia and South Carolina, and they finished second in the SEC East that year. However, he was still great, and even though he was fledged around in the NFL for some time, he is currently on my San Francisco 49ers as a backup, and I want to see what he does next. Then for the defense, I've got the Georgia Bulldogs, considerably the 2017 defense and special, but we could say that the Georgia Bulldogs defense in general was one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the entire nation. And, they've lived on their defense for some time. Georgia's game style the past couple of years was, run the ball and let the defense stop the opponent's game, and they've been pretty successful in that. Allowing less than 35 points on average per game, and sometimes even coming to the point of allowing less than 20 points per game. And they've been a pretty good team. This is a pretty good defense. And now moving on to the head coach, the one and only Nick Saban, who is arguably the best head coach of all time in college football. Even I consider him better than even Bear Bryant, who was also at Alabama, let's say in the 1950s, I think, or 40s, I don't remember. But Alabama's just become a dynasty with Nick Saban since he started having winning seasons in 2008. And he has won, I think, 6 national championships at Alabama. And I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to stay in college football until 2025. I wouldn't be surprised. And he is a truly once-in-a-generation type of coach. And this is all for the SEC team. Comment below what you would change. Comment below if you like this team. And I'll see you in the next video.